Welcome. Thank you all for being with us today. For those of you who are not on our reception webinar, I am Madame Kadir, Resident Director at SYA France. First, before we start, I would like to convey my félicitations to students on their acceptance and tell you all that we're looking forward to having you on campus next year. Before I introduce some of our team members and our wonderful students who are present on this call tonight, I would like to give you a quick update of what's happening right now at our school. So about 3 weeks ago, we were in Paris for our second school trip. For this trip in particular, our students were able to pick from a menu of activities. Amongst the many choices they had, some of them chose to discover les passages couverts, others went to the Centre Pompidou, la Cité de l'Architecture. A lot of them picked Shakespeare and Company, which is an English bookshop right across Notre-Dame de Paris. As some of the authors students read and studied in English class this year, spent quite some time writing at that bookstore. So I'm mentioning some of these places as our school trips are an extension of what students learn within our four walls. Also, I'm mentioning this because all of our school trips, whether it's a day trip outside of Rennes, or an overnight trip, or educational experiences, and involve some level of work, some assignments for our students to do while they travel with us. So after Paris, students had a well-deserved break. Currently, our students are very focused on their classes. We've been back at school for a little over 3 weeks now, and we have resumed our academic rhythm. They're all busy in their 6 courses. I mentioned this during our January webinar, but I think it's important to mention again that students are enrolled in 6 classes here. 4 of them are mandatory classes, so English, math, French language, and experiential French. The last 2 courses are elective courses. We offer 4 elective classes, so le cinéma, art history, la politique, and science. So in the next couple of months, and now I'm really addressing our incoming students, you all will select your 2 electives. So we will guarantee you your first choice, but due to class sizes, you might not get your second choice. So my advice is for you to go on our website and carefully read the course descriptions on our course catalog and make an informed decision when the time comes for you to pick these classes. So I would like to also mention that right now our students are working hard on their capstone project. They're being challenged as our capstone project is place-based and experiential by nature. Each student will do a 10-minute presentation of their work in French, of course, in front of their peers and a jury of teachers in about 3 weeks. So as a faculty, we're looking forward to hearing them do these presentations. And lastly, this week, we have officially entered our last quarter. And speaking to students in hallways, they tell me it's hard to believe that they have 2 months left in country. And still so much to learn, to do, and achieve. So for now, I'll stop talking, and I would like to introduce you to our team here. You're going to hear from them directly. I'll start with the home office. Erin, if you could please introduce yourself.
Of course, thank you, Mina. Donc, bonjour à toutes et à tous. It is so wonderful to see you all virtually. It was an absolute pleasure to read all of your applications this season. I am really excited about this incoming class. You are a truly exceptional group of students. So you've probably heard from me a little bit already throughout the season, and kind of moving forward, you're going to be hearing from me a little bit more. starting off with visas and enrollment and all that sorts of information. So I can really be a point person for you from the home office moving forward. So don't hesitate to reach out to me now or in the future with any questions. I'm so excited for this great adventure that you are all embarking on. And so thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Merci, Erin. Je passe à Alexia.
Bonsoir tout le monde. I am Alexia Delanoux, the host family coordinator in Rennes, and also the French semester program liaison. And I'm glad to be here with you tonight.
Merci, Alexia. Lene, Madame Connolly.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon. I'm Madame Connolly. I'm the English professor here at SYA, also the college liaison and the test coordinator for SAT and AP. Congratulations, and looking forward to meeting you next year.
Merci. Madame Pena, Eva? You might be on mute, Eva.
Est-ce que je suis toujours mute?
Non, c'est bon.
Non, vous m'entendez? Désolée, j'avais branché des enceintes. Good evening, everyone. My name is Eva Pena, and I'm the French cinema teacher. I'm also part of the French experiential teachers, and I'm very happy to encounter you next year.
Merci. Et Pascal, Monsieur Monteville?
Bonjour, bonsoir. I'm Pascal Monteville, and I'm teaching politics. The real name is Political Science and Global Issues. I also teach one of the French by Experience sections, and I'm in charge of the co-curricular activities. And we'll talk more about this later, tonight, or today. Still don't know what time it is now.
Merci. And our two amazing students, je commence avec toi, Clover, si tu peux te présenter, s'il te plaît, en français et puis en anglais.
Oui, bien sûr. Bonjour, je m'appelle Clover, j'ai 17 ans. Je suis une junior à SYA France et j'habite en Californie et je viens de le lycée Clover Academies. Hi everyone, my name is Clover. I am 17. I'm a junior here at SYA France, and I'm from Orange County, California, and I come from the boarding school Clover Academies.
Merci Clover. Wyatt, pareil, s'il te plaît, en français et en anglais.
D'accord. Bonjour tout le monde. Je m'appelle Wyatt, comme les Français disent, mais Wyatt. Je viens de Las Vegas. Je suis en première comme Clover et je vais à Thatcher. En Californie. Hello everyone, I'm Wyatt, I'm 17, I'm a junior like Clover. I'm from Las Vegas, and yeah, my home school is Thatcher.
Merci à tous les deux. On va regarder une petite vidéo. We'll watch a short video showing you our beautiful city here and pictures of activities and fieldwork that students have done this year. And if Sarah could show it, merci. Bonjour, je suis Madame Kadir, directrice du programme de SYA France. J'aimerais tous et toutes vous féliciter. Nous sommes très contents de vous accueillir l'année prochaine. C'est un programme qui est rigoureux, donc je vous demande dès à présent de bien travailler votre français pour être donc prêt pour la rentrée ici à Rennes en Bretagne. À très bientôt, merci.
Bienvenue à vous, chers élèves de SYA. Je suis votre professeur de français, je suis Madame Borotra. Je travaille avec vous 4 jours par semaine, lundi, mardi, mercredi et vendredi. Nous travaillerons régulièrement sur l'oral, l'écrit, la grammaire, le vocabulaire, et le programme vous servira à vous familiariser avec votre environnement. Vous travaillerez des compétences de communication pour vous aider à vous intégrer, et on s'amusera quand même un peu. Bienvenue.
Bonjour, I'm Wyatt. I'm a junior here at SYA France. And the reason I love SYA so much is because of my friends and like my host family and all the connections that I've made here. It's really great like learning about a new culture and having everyone along with you like for this experience.
Hi, I'm Maya. I'm a junior at SYA France this year. I'm currently in our art history classroom. And one thing that I love so much about SYA is the host family experience. I've loved dinner conversations with my host family, speaking entirely in French and really learning about them. Every night we talk about how our day went, and I learn so much about them and their days, and they get to learn about me and my experience at SYA and my life back in the US, and they're so interested to hear from me, and I'm so interested to hear from them.
Hi, I'm Pierre Pulver. I'm a senior here at SYA France, and one of the best things here is the experiential part of this whole program. So we get to go on trips every single Thursday, every single week. We go on trips to Fougères, to just multiple towns, and we have these like academic responsibilities to go out to the town and like talk to like local people and this and that, and then we go on trips to like the south of France twice a year, which is amazing, and we go to Paris, and I feel like that's how we really learn French, by using it in our daily lives and speaking it to locals and everything. So that's an amazing part of SYA France.
SYA France for class of 2023, and one of my favorite things about SYA, or at least SYA France, is the fact that we have a lot of clubs on campus. One thing that I participate in is a spirit committee, where we do a bunch of activities for the students, so that it's not just academics here. And today we actually have cribs after school right before vacation, and it slays.
My favorite thing about SYA is Chris.
Merci, Sarah. So you saw some of the highlights of the program during this short video. Just want to say that the students had not rehearsed for this. They were asked these questions on the fly. So I feel like they did a great job talking about the experience here at SYA France. So I'll turn the mic over to Wyatt and Clover. They've prepared questions for you all, and we're hoping that these questions will help you understand the program better. Je commence avec toi, Wyatt.
Madame Kadir, pouvez-vous décrire une journée typique d'école ou une semaine à SYA France? So, Madame Kadir, can you describe a typical day or week here at SYA France?
Merci, Wyatt. So it's a great question, and I'm sure everyone is thinking about what the week looks like here en France. So Monday and Tuesdays, we start school at 9 a.m. and finish at 4:30 p.m. Typically, students have one free period during the day to catch up on their work. Wednesday is a little bit different. We start at 9 a.m. and finish at 12:30 p.m. Wednesday afternoon is free, as it is for all French schools. So again, I said that again in January, but we follow the French calendar. Students have activities usually on Wednesday afternoons, or use that time to spend time with their host families, host siblings, or do some work. Thursday is particular. It's our fieldwork day. So most Thursdays happen outside of the building. Students have missions to complete and fulfill in Rennes or outside of Rennes. Friday is again a 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. day. And if you're wondering about lunch, SYA provides lunch for students Monday through Friday at our neighboring high school called le lycée Jean Massé. Voilà, Wyatt, j'espère que ça répond à la question. Je passe à Clover.
All right, this question is for Madame Connolly. Madame Connolly, pouvez-vous parler de la classe d'anglais et programme dans la classe d'anglais. So, Madame Connolly, can you talk about the English class and the English program?
Merci, Clover. Thank you, Clover. Yes, of course. So the SYA English curriculum is really designed to be a home base for the students to reflect on their intercultural experiences here and their time abroad. Also, it's a place for intellectual growth as well. And so students have the opportunity to write and to reflect on their experiences and also read some literary greats such as Hemingway and Baldwin and learn about Gertrude Stein, all expats who spend time in France. So then they can analyze the experience of expats that have lived here before them. And they're also analyzing their own experience. And sometimes they get to put those two together in a hybrid essay, which is always a fun thing to do and very rewarding for the students. Merci, Clover.
Merci. Je repasse à Wyatt.
Cette question est pour Madame Peña. Est-ce que vous enseignez le cinéma, qui est une classe appellation Fieldwork? Comment ce cas est relié à la classe de français par l'expérience? Madame Peña, you teach cinema, as I know, I'm in cinema, which is under the umbrella of Fieldwork. How is this class related to the French by experience class?
Bonsoir, Wyatt. Merci pour ta question. Oui, the cinema class is called Fieldwork, like the other elective classes. This means that each elective class in its respective field has the opportunity to focus on its subject several times a year during the fieldwork of the experiential French class that is planned every Thursday. In the case of cinema, we are lucky in Rennes to be in a city that is very active in the field of cinema. In fact, there are several film festivals which are organized all year long by associations and professionals. And during several fieldworks this year, the students of the school were able to go to special projections within the context of the festival. In this case, it was the festival Traveling, which is about cinema of the world. This year it was a focus on Chile, and a festival called Court Métrange, which highlights science fiction and fantastic short movies. We also recently used the resources of a creative place in Rennes open to the public called the Hôtel Pasteur. It's a beautiful place with creative material that we can mobilize with students to set up an art project. In this context, we made stop motion short movies. And within the film course itself, students are often invited to make video experimentations, to make their own movies in connection with what they have seen in class. And for that, their field of action is the whole city of Rennes. Est-ce que ça répond à ta question, Wyatt? Merci de l'avoir posée.
Merci. Now I'll ask a question to Clover and Wyatt, because they're speaking to French with you right now, and their language proficiency is pretty high. We're in the month of March, but something that must be on the minds of our future students. Clover and Wyatt, can you tell us a little bit about how was the immersion process for you at the beginning of the year? And if you could also touch base on the immersion unit. Clover first, if possible.
Sure. So the immersion unit was super great because I hadn't taken French since last year. So there was all summer where I didn't practice any French. And the immersion unit was great because we actually didn't start our class schedule until about 2.5, 3 weeks in. So for the immersion unit, we went and took a ton of excursions. We went to Mont Saint-Michel, which is a castle in Normandy. We went to La Gacelie, another art exhibit. We also just got to explore the city of Rennes. We did our first field work, which is always a fun one, which is where we have a map only, no phones, and we have to explore and find a ton of different places in Rennes. So I really enjoyed the immersion unit because it was a great way to just meet everybody in SYA without the sudden start of homework or classes or things like that.
Wyatt?
Yeah, so the just to give you guys some context, the first weekend here is just completely spent with your host family, and it's really just like a great time to get to know them and to start getting back into the French mindset. And I just got to spend a lot of time with them and really get to know them, and that part was really great. And then when we came back to school, yeah, the immersion unit was really helpful, just like getting my language skills back up and just getting to know everyone, all the teachers, and like Clover was talking about with the activity without with just a paper map and no phones, it really just made us get to know the city that we're living in. So that part was amazing.
Okay. Merci beaucoup. And just to let you know, if we have spring semester students listening tonight, we also do a shorter version of our immersion unit in January for the spring semester students arriving later into the year. So they get a similar experience during the second half of the year. So we talked a little bit about host families, and I'm going to transition to that and have Madame Delanoux talk about the host family process, recruitment and placement. Madame Delanoux?
Oh, yes, I have a small presentation for about the host family. Perhaps we can have the slide. Yeah. Yes. So I would like to say about host families that we know all our families. They are all background checked. I visit their homes and they go through a very strict interview process. So you can be reassured that your family is really eager to host you. And it's very, very important for them that you feel good in their home. And they really want to be helpful in the integration process. At SYA, communication is the key word to be sure that this immersive experience succeeds. And by that, I mean you have to know each other, not only the student and his or her host family, but the whole student's family. For me, per experience, it's very important that you, parents, and new students contact the host family before arrival. This step shows that you are engaged in this process. And again, per experience, the first few days go much smoother when you have made the efforts to exchange with your host family over the summer. The transition is made easier this way. About the host family, I would like to add and speak about the commute to school. As you know, we have families from different parts of the city and some are on the outskirts. So while some of you may be able to walk to school, others will take the bus or the metro. But I insist that Rennes has a very, very good public transportation system. We always also make sure that we have at least 2 students placed in the same neighborhood. Regardless of where you live, you will be able to be independent when it comes to getting to school or going out on your own. In SYA, you have rules in the families, but also at school, of course. And the SYA program's particularity is based on immersive experience. It means that students are really part of the family. Host families consider them as their child, and as a member of his family, you have to conform to the rules of the house on SYA too. Of course, all year long, I'm in touch with both families and new students from your arrival in September and throughout the year. I will be by your side and frequently in contact with your family to be sure everything is okay. Naturally, because I know all the families, they never hesitate to contact me, and I would like you to do the same. I also have office hours to meet you during the weeks for any questions. And it's important for you to remember that all questions are welcome. So don't hesitate to come to see me. you have to know that host families are really supportive. They will welcome you in September, and they will facilitate your arrival in France. For example, it is important to communicate with your host family before your arrival to anticipate your extracurricular activities. In France, everything is done in the beginning of September. So you have to think about that before. Also, SYA asks to you have a French phone number to be joined easily by SYA and by your host family. Your host family will help you with this process to get you a SIM card, for example. Your host family is a precious resource, and it's important to rely on them. I usually say that host family is a family for life. Host family are very important pillar of our program. They support our students, your children, and they create very strong bonds with them. When you choose the SYA program, you gain a family for life. For example, in this picture, you can see Khadija, an SYA France 2021-2022 student. And she came last week to see her host family and met Zibi, the new student hosted in the family. So we can say that SYA community is a very, very big family. And I would like to add that the most important things for me is communicate. Communication is the key word to the immersive experience. Thank you.
Merci, Madame Delanoux. That was very complete. So you heard the word communication over and over. So that's very, very important. And also, I just want to add and insist that by participating fully in the host family life, students will come in direct contact with valuable cultural, personal, and practical aspects of life in France. So that pillar of our program really complements and completes the SYA academic program. So you also talked, Madame Delanoux, about commute, and I know that's a source of anxiety sometimes for students arriving. You don't know who you're going to be paired with. You saw the map. You're not sure if you're going to be in Rennes or on the outskirts of the city. I just want to address that right now, since we have both actually Wyatt and Clover live on the outskirts of Rennes. I think Wyatt, you have the longest commute out of everybody at school. So, and I know that posed question, you know, at the beginning of your experience here in September, but I wanted to ask you, reflecting back now that we're in March, what would be the most important for you, your commute or your relationship with your host family?
Yeah, so when I first received the address to my new host family, I was a little bit scared that because it's about a 40-minute commute by bus and by metro. But really, like the first few days, I realized that it was not at all a big deal. The school starts at 9, so I just have to wake up around 8. So it's really just not a huge problem. I would say by far, like the most important thing is just like my host family. I wouldn't trade them for any other host family here. They are like absolutely amazing, and I just love every minute I spend with them, and I feel very well like integrated into their family. And I enjoy just like my time on the bus and the metro, just talking to people. Like at first I didn't really understand the conversations that were happening around me, but slowly by slowly I kind of picked up on certain things, and yeah, it's really great.
Merci, Wyatt. Très bien. And also, just because you mentioned the 40 minutes, so that's the commute for some students at school. Some students might walk to school because they live close enough. Some students might have a 25-minute commute, and some students have a 40-minute commute. So depending, you know, on the matching process, which is a very complicated process for us. But please don't be fearful about that 30, 35-minute, 40-minute commute prior to arrival here. Also, Clover, if you could talk a little bit about your host family and just overall tell us, like, how they help with your development here, whether it's about your language skills or any other aspects of life here in the country. If you could just describe what the relationship is at home for you.
Sure. I'd also like to add something about the commute thing too. I live in the same town as Wyatt, actually. We both have that 40-minute commute, but it's also just really nice to be outside of Rennes for a little bit, kind of in the countryside, because it's just a total different vibe, and you really just get that sense of, and like whenever I'm at my house in my town, I feel like, okay, this is really when I'm going to spend time with my host family versus the rest of the world in Rennes with school and friends and all things like that. So going off of life with my host family, they're really great. I live in a house with 4 siblings. 2 are outside of the house and 2 are currently still at home. And I have a host dad and a host mom. And I really love it because it's just so different from my family life back home. And I also go to boarding school, so I was used to living in a dorm. And so just having that personal family connection is something I really, really wanted. And I have it, and it's just amazing. I spend every dinner with them. We have conversations about our days, about culture changes, politics sometimes, religion, all things like that. So it's really great to be able to also just share what I learned at school with them, and also how like what they're teaching me is just amazing as well. So they've helped me emotionally, just like to acclimate to France, but also with language as well.
Merci beaucoup, Clover. That's right, 40 minutes for both of you. So that was a coincidence, but they both from the outskirts of Rennes, and we do start at 9 o'clock. So that's one of the reasons why SYA started that late. I would say the French schools start at 8 o'clock in the morning, starting from 6th grade. So we're lucky enough to be able to make our own schedule, which allows students living on the outskirts of town to leave their home at 8, which is not a bad time for high schoolers, and get here around 8:40, 45 and go to class at 9 o'clock. Merci à tous les deux. Je change de sujet. On va passer aux activités. Monsieur Monteville, extracurricular activities.
Hello again, and you already talked about families, about the town, and now it's time maybe to connect some of the fields here. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. You should be able, okay, that's not what you should see. Something is missing here. Okay, it worked perfectly before, so it should work again. Okay, very good. Are you able to see the first slide? Okay, very good. Okay, so let's start with athletics, with sports, because every year we have students who want to practice a sport, maybe a sport that they do in the States. And one of the problems actually is that some of them don't exist or are difficult to join. I'm talking, for instance, about American football. There is only one team, and it's not in Rennes. So what we try to do is to encourage students to do something that maybe they never did before. And here you have an example of someone from semester 1, that's Evan, and he's doing fencing, and he's participating in a national tournament. I mean, regional first, and then national. And this is something that he was doing in the States. It's not common in the American schools, but he wanted to continue while in Rennes, and that's what he did. And when I said that you can do basically everything from circus to rowing, I mean it, because everything is available. The only problem is that sometimes, and we talked about being outside Rennes or being maybe far from school, and sometimes the sport that you choose might be on the other side of the city. So the students, the first thing that the students face is a problem that they don't have in the States, because if you live in a boarding school, for instance, if you work in a boarding school, you practice your sport at school. So you basically have to walk around and go to the stadium or to the gym or to the swimming pool, which is not the case for our students, and this is totally new for them. And we know that it's scary at the beginning, but it's also how they acquire independence, because they learn how to take the bus by themselves, and they learn to go by themselves to the place and try it out. And if they don't like it, they can try something else. And maybe we'll ask Clover and Wyatt at the end of this presentation to say a word about this. So you can do sports, but you can also do arts. And here you have a class of ceramics. And interesting enough, this is something becoming very popular. It was not the case in the past. I don't know what happened during the crisis, the sanitary crisis, but now everyone is interested in ceramics. The students can also do, they can sign up for a cooking class, for a painting class, a drawing class. We have a lot of opportunities. And again, it really depends on what you want to do on your level, if you have some experience or not. And sometimes it's not exactly what you would expect in the States. It might be easier or more difficult, but we always find a place for you. And then I don't know if I'm going too fast here, but I guess we'll have questions at the end. Another thing is that we have what we call in-house activities. And here you have a great example with a former SYA France teacher, Madame Palicot, who retired, but who offers cooking lessons to the students every year. And the students go on a regular basis, not all year long. I mean, there are so many students interested in doing this that Madame Palicot organized it by weeks. So the students get to participate in a session. And Chrissy, who you heard during the presentation, the short video at the beginning of this this webinar, was also talking about clubs at school. We don't call them activities, but that's something also that you can do. But like the cooking lesson, it's not part exactly of what we call activities. And finally, and that's also a big difference from the States, it's community service. And it's a bit complicated in France, first because usually it's done by people over 18. So it's always difficult to find places for our students to do community service. But depending on the years, we are able to place students in a primary school or in a retirement home. And I just received a message from the Franco-American Institute, who was telling me about the students who are helping this year with some clubs. So that's also an opportunity. If there is something that you need to take away from this very short presentation on activities, is that it's important to think about what you really want to do. Is it something that you already do in the States and it's crucial for you that you continue? I'm thinking about some students this year who are doing rowing, and they wanted to do that while in France because they want to do it in college. And if it's really the case, it's important that you tell us about it, because as we said before, you arrive in September, and the season has already started for many activities, especially sports. So if we can know about what you want to do before you arrive, it's better, because at least we can start looking around and maybe establish a connection with the club or with the organization. I'm thinking also about music, and Wyatt spoke about his experience in France, but he didn't say that he is also a member of the Conservatoire this year, because he's an accomplished musician and he wanted to do that while with SYA. And if I remember well, Wyatt contacted me in June or maybe even in May, and I was able to call the Conservatoire and to see what was available. But one thing that you also need to know is that we don't make the decisions, meaning that we're a school, we're a program, but we don't decide if you will be able to join the Conservatoire, for instance, for dance or music, or if you will be able to play in the soccer team that you have your eyes on. But we try our best to make sure that you find something and that what you find actually works well for you. In all senses, because if it's too far away, if it's too late, that's also a shock for some students who realize that they are going to go to a volleyball practice at 8 at night, and that's not what they are used to. So it takes also some adjustment. Okay, I'm going to stop here because I didn't know actually how much time I had, but we can go back to some questions afterwards. Yes.
Oui, merci beaucoup. Très bien. Just something I wanted to add to what Monsieur Monteville just said right now. So activities are a requirement for us. SYA requires students to do at least one activity. And the reason we do that is that we're hopefully asking students to go outside of the building again and meet young French people their age and participate in something they like or want to discover and use their French language skills. So that's the reason why it's a requirement for us. I would have maybe Wyatt talk about music et le conservatoire, since that process is very particular. I think that'd be interesting to hear what you had to do and how early you had to contact Monsieur Monteville to get an audition for this.
Yeah. So as Monsieur Monteville said, I contacted him at the end of last year, at the end of last school year, to say that I'm very interested in playing music while here in Rennes. I have my instrument, the euphonium, that I had to ship here because it was a little too big to bring on the plane. But I got into the conservatoire with 2 other SYA students, and it's been a really amazing experience. Yeah, it's like a great opportunity to just speak with French kids, just like really use your French in a very practical sense of just figuring out like which page on the music to go to, like just figure all that stuff out. And I made some really great friends there. And yeah, it's been a great activity. Yeah.
Merci, Wyatt. Très bien. That was for the conservatoire. So again, very particular, and which requires an audition before getting into that music level. Clover, ton activité, or I should say it in the plural form because you have 2 activities.
Yes, so my first activity is dance. I previously danced before coming to SYA, so that was something I wanted to continue. And then my second activity is archery, which I just started in France. It was something I've always thought was cool, and they had it in my town, so I thought, why not try it out? And I love it. Oh, I'm also a part of News Decoder, which is a club after school, a part of SYA. News Decoder is an outside organization. It's a politics and news organization, and News Decoder partners with other schools The other two SYA campuses also do News Decoder, and we're working on a webinar of the Russia-Ukraine war.
Merci, Clover. So again, just want to underline the fact that it's a requirement because it's important for students to engage in an activity that helps them meet people their age, speak French, and it's important for the overall happiness to have an extracurricular activity. And also, as we believe that the greatest success of a study abroad experience depends, in part on students' full engagement in both the local community and the host country. So by engagement here in this area, I mean athletics, community service, as Monsieur Monteville mentioned, exchanges with local schools, which we do during fieldwork days a couple of times a year, art classes, music classes, etc. So we've wrapped up, I think, the activities portion. I don't know if there are any questions now. We can open up. We tried to answer the question, I think, in the chat box as they came in.
Yes, so I'm looking at the chat box right now, and there are a few kind of questions that we can definitely circulate on. First of all, there's some specifics. If Pascal, you'd be able to kind of do some one-off questions about track, if that's possible, and then field hockey as well.
Yeah, are we talking about track and field?
Track and field, and then field hockey was another.
Okay, track and field, definitely. Field hockey, it's a bit complicated because I don't want to get political here, but because of the crisis, it's this year especially because there is only one. I mean, Rennes is in Brittany, and Brittany is west of France, and field hockey is not something that a lot of people do, but it exists. And depending on the years, we had students who enrolled in the club, but this year it was complicated because of the club, which was changing. I don't know what the situation is going to be next year, but there was also a question. I saw also a question about squash. And we do have students who are doing squash this year, at least two, if I remember well. So yeah, I can see another question about and rock climbing too. Yes, I mean local scouting group. Yes, it does exist. I mean, we have a whole list, and every year we have different questions about different activities. As I said, I mean, it's very interesting for me that this year we had a lot of students interested in ceramics, and when I contacted the different places, they said that they were overwhelmed, not only by the American students, but by French people who suddenly all wanted to do ceramics. So as I said before, it's important that we know beforehand what the students are aiming at. I mean, if it's especially if we are talking about the conservatoire or the Beaux-Arts, the fine arts school, because it's a long process, it takes time, there are a limited number of spots, and our students don't come first because they're coming from outside, and again, depending on the years, it can be complicated to find a spot. So if we can know about it earlier, that's better.
Perfect, thank you. And then Mina, we also have some questions about kind of host family timeline, and then if those extracurriculars, if you do indicate interest, if that's taken into account as far as distance with host family in proximity to those extracurriculars, if you could touch on that.
Right. So yes, that's taken into account now. All the students do get what we call a carte corrigo. So transportation is great here. I think we can ask White and Clover right after this. So you could be living outside of Rennes and have an activity downtown where the school is and be able to go there by foot or by metro. Would be one stop or two stops and then go to your activity and from there go back home. So your address wouldn't impede on, you know, the activity. And most activities again happen either after school or on Wednesday afternoons when we don't have school.
Just to speak on that a little bit, my activity is Friday at 8 o'clock at night, which is a little bit bizarre for me, but it's great. I just spend some time with friends after school, and then I go to conservatoire, and then I just head back to my house. And then I still have the right to go out on Saturdays to use my curfew. So that's just a great part, and it's not really too bad that it's like a little bit out of the way.
Thank you so much. All right, so just kind of moving on a little bit, I do see a question about visas, and I will be in touch with you as that time arrives. Your first communication will be received about April 14th with kind of instructions, but that's really a project for the summer, and we'll make sure you have all the information. And then just kind of moving towards some commonly asked questions, since we've pretty much covered everything that was in the chat. I know we talked about kind of host families and making sure families feel comfortable with all the background checks, but could you speak a little bit to just general safety for any parents that might be a little concerned about their students with all this new independence?
Right, that's a big question. Yes, so safety. So I mean, SYA's discipline, philosophy is based on a goal of providing a safe and secure environment for students, and at the same time being able to experience life here in France. So what we do is that during orientation and throughout the year, we provide ongoing support to students. We make sure they have the necessary information to take care of themselves and behave in ways that are culturally appropriate and avoid situations that can be dangerous. So we also have the police come here. We wait until October or November for the language skills to be a little bit higher, making sure they understand the message. So there is a whole assembly with 2 police officers that come to school and talk about safety in Rennes and beyond, because as I mentioned earlier during the webinar, we do travel to much larger cities. So Rennes, to tell you, is the 10th largest city in France. So I would say it's a medium-sized city, but we this year, and that might change next year, we haven't yet decided where we will be going during those trips. But this year we went to Marseille, Montpellier, we went to Paris, which are much larger cities, and the police helps us kind of remind students in a very formal way how to behave outside, not to engage. So our host families are also partners of these safety guidelines, making sure they remind their students on the weekends. Wyatt mentioned that curfew, we have strict rules. So we're not a dorm, we're not a day school either. We have a very unique fonctionnement, like we say en français. And they have a clear curfew, except for the first weekend, which is a closed weekend. And we gradually allow them a curfew that reaches 12 o'clock at night once a week over the weekend. And they also have a curfew during the week. They have to be home by 7 o'clock for dinner. So there are a lot of things put in place to make sure that they're safe. Now, I also want to say that aside from everything we can do at SYA and everything that the host families can do, we also relying on students, best behaviors and what I call responsible decision making. That's part of the deal. They have all this independence, but we count on them to make those good decisions under our guidance. So we have a lot of expectations for them to behave in a way that reflects positively on themselves and on the school by just being kind, I would say, supportive, thoughtful, and above all, safe.
Thank you so much. I am aware of the time, so I just want to kind of ask an additional question to Wyatt and Clover. You know, we're talking to many students who might be currently mulling over what they want to do next year. Why should they do SYA?
Well, the main reason I chose SYA was just to really just like get out there and explore the world around me, just gain a new perspective, and literally all my expectations have been more than fulfilled. I speak amazing French, not to brag or anything, but yeah, it's just a great way to just expand your horizons and just learn about other people and how they think.
Of course, language is definitely one of the main factors of SYA, but it's just way more than that. It's turned into culture, friends, family, travel, independence, all of that. And it's just something that I would have never been able to chance to get all of this at once at my homeschool. And it's just been an amazing, amazing year. And like Madame Kadir said in the beginning, I just can't believe that it's already the last quarter. It's crazy. It feels like I just got here 2 weeks ago. So it's just really been an incredible experience.
Thank you so much. Mina, if you'd like to help us close the program, but once again, I'd just like to be mindful of the time. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It was wonderful to hear from our lovely faculty over in France and our wonderful students, of course, Wyatt and Clover. So like I said, don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions as we can move towards this next deadline.
Thank you, Erin. I just want to thank my team here in France. It's pretty late to be on the call here tonight. I want to thank Wyatt and Clover. Merci de votre participation ce soir. And thank you all for attending this call. If you have any questions, like Erin said, please feel free to reach out now that you know who we are, and you can identify, Monsieur Monteville as, our extracurricular activity coordinator, Madame Delanoux as our host family coordinator, myself. I think the students would be more than happy to respond to your questions. I'm sure they're on Instagram. Clover is for sure. Wyatt, I don't know, but you can find them if you guys want to put your Instagrams in the chat box or your email address in case students want to reach out to you. Again, félicitations on your acceptance, and we hope to see you in a few months. Thank you. Merci.